Once upon a time there was a poor shoemaker who lived with his wife. He worked very hard, cutting leather and stitching shoes every day to sell to his customers. He was a good, honest man, but often did not get many people passing through his shop. His savings dwindled until one day he had only enough leather left to make one more pair of shoes. "After this, I will have to shut my shop," he sighed sadly. That evening he set his leather and all his tools out on his workbench, planning to start his final pair of shoes in the morning. Another day had passed with no customers at the shop. Although he had such great troubles, the shoemaker had a clear, honest conscience and a heart full of trust in fate, so he did not worry himself. He went to bed and slept soundly, knowing that there would be an answer if he had faith. He woke in the morning and hurried down to his workshop to get started on his final pair of shoes. To his amazement, a pair of shoes already sat on his bench. They were a beautiful blue pair of loafers, just as he had imagined he would make in his head. They were perfectly crafted, with stitches so small he could hardly see them. The shoemaker bowed his head and said, "Thank you," out loud, hoping whoever helped could hear him. Later that day, a customer came in. The lady was the first customer he'd had in many days, and she liked the beautiful blue shoes very much. She tried them on, and they fit her perfectly. She gave the shoemaker several coins, much more than he had asked for, as the shoes were so perfectly crafted. Her payment was enough to buy the leather for 2 more pairs of shoes. The shoemaker went to bed early, hoping to get a good start on work the next day. When he rose the next morning, the same thing had happened again. The leather he had left out on his workbench had been crafted into 2 beautiful pairs of shoes, one green and one red. "Thank you," the shoemaker said out loud to the workshop again, never forgetting his manners. More customers came in that day and fell in love with the 2 wonderful pairs of shoes. They also overpaid, so the shoemaker could afford leather for 4 more pairs of shoes. Every day for many weeks, the same pattern went on. Shoes would arrive beautifully stitched and finished on the shoemaker's workbench. He would thank the empty workshop, and customers would pay high prices. Soon the shoemaker's business was thriving once again, all thanks to the nightly visitor. Who could it be? He didn't know anyone in town that could stitch shoes so perfectly. Christmas time came, and the shoemaker was feeling in the holiday spirit. "I wish we could find out who works in our workshop late at night," he said to his wife, "as I'd love to give them a Christmas gift. I am so grateful for all their help." The shoemaker and his wife hatched a plan to hide under a blanket in the workshop, leaving a single light burning by the workbench so they could spy on the helper. They waited there until past midnight. They were amazed to see 2 little elves creep into the room through a hole in the skirting board. They were just like ordinary people, only barely 12 inches high. They wore ragged shirts and trousers and no socks at all. Carefully, they sat down at the workbench and began to make shoes. So fast their little fingers shaped and stitched the leather that 20 pairs of perfect shoes were made in no time at all. The shoemaker marveled. When morning broke, the little elves ran back into their hole. The shoemaker turned to his wife and exclaimed, "These wonderful little creatures have made us rich and comfortable again. We must repay them for their kindness." His wife understood immediately and nodded. "I'll get to work right away," she said, sitting down at her sewing machine. When she was finished, 2 bright, silky shirts, 2 pair of trousers, and 2 pairs of woolly socks lay in her lap. They laid them on the bench, where they usually left the leather, and waited again in their hiding spot. Midnight came again, and soon the little elves crept back into the workroom. They saw the clothes lying on the bench, just their size. They whooped with joy and took off their old rags for the new fancy outfits. They danced and skipped around all night before taking off out of the front door this time. The shoemaker and his lovely wife never saw them again, but their good deed was returned by fate for many years. They never lacked customers and lived truly happy lives.
For infinity, I love you for infinity.